And the Kenya Kwanza has raised these questions publicly that the chiefs are being used in a number of places to sort of, tilt the numbers and help, the Azimio coalition. It's not the first time we've had these same, sort of questions raised by Raila Odinga in 2017.
Yes.
And this time, obviously, it's flipped. Raila Odinga is assuring, people of their safety and is calm, and the Kenya Kwanza is charged. So it's a bit of a different place to be in. But let's talk about these sort of questions on that comes about before very election. And Raila has these questions as well about, IEBC and, I think a month or 3 weeks ago when they made a threat that they will not go to an election if there's not going to be a manual register, in a sense. The question about administration, service, the provincial administration service, if you like, and the questions of chiefs particularly, and their role in elections, and the suspicion that brings during elections. Talk to me around that.
So one of the things that has constantly happens, there's a book titled How to Rig Elections. Unfortunately, someone wrote a book about it. And one of the things that they speak on is how first weaken public institutions, attack public institutions so much, make them look so weak, so unreliable, create as much mistrust into public institutions like the IEBC, like the administration police. So attack every institution like the judiciary, so that when you come out to contest an election, people actually say, but we said from the very beginning the IBC was compromised. We say that the police were compromised. We say that the judiciary was compromised. So we have a legitimate reason to refuse this result and say go to the streets or do whatever else that we need to do.
So some sort of psychological tactic?
It is a political strategy, number one, but not to say that there are no substantiated claims. I mean, there are legitimate claims there. If chiefs, for instance, have a role to play in an election, they do have a role to play. They have the role of ensuring safety of those who are going to vote, the chiefs and the administration police, ensure that there is safety of those who are going to vote, those who are managing elections, ensure that there is safety, ensure that there is safety of the vote that is being managed. But to the extent to which we've seen in the past, for instance, where police officers have been used to disrupt an election, and there's tear gas being thrown at a polling station the whole day. People end up coming to vote at 5, and the polling station is closed at 6 p.m. So that's a deliberate tactic to ensure that people do not vote. So if you want to frustrate voter turnout, one of the ways is heighten up security. When you heighten up security, there will always be reason why there will be violence between the public and the police. People will always, start throwing stones here and there and animosity. Tear gas will be thrown. People will be dispersed. Women will not come out to vote because most of the time when there's the threat of violence, women are most affected. And so the women will not turn up to vote because there's violence. When women don't turn up to vote, you are actually frustrating the democratic process. So to the extent that there are claims right now that there are plans to actually use the police to do that, that's a concern. Unfortunately, these are claims that have been laid to us by Raila Odinga in 2013 and in 2017, and they were rubbished. And now they're coming again in 2022, and unfortunately they will be rubbished again. Again, if you look at the role of chiefs going door to door now, that's not the role of chiefs. They should not be going door to door to campaign. Chiefs should be going door to do civic education. But the time for civic education already lapsed. So I think that, again, those are some of the reasons I said if you go to the Supreme Court, you just need to attack the process. Anyone who has a process, they will say, there was a process, there was a problem in our constituency, police officers came and this is what they did, and as a result, we did not get the turnout that we needed.
Right, Ruth.
Well, I think for me, whatever claims that come up between now and the elections really need to be substantiated. And when we talk about the role that chiefs play in an election, as he has mentioned, they play quite a lot of roles. And it's not just during the elections, but even before the elections. I mean, if we are to talk about how chiefs can tilt an election, you begin from the voter registration process. Not even, in fact, you don't even, the ID collection process, where you find that in certain cases, it has been alleged that chiefs have been used to suppress, the process of issuing out of IDs. During the voter registration process, they frustrate, they transfer votes. They frustrate those who want to register to vote based on whatever instructions they receive from wherever. So I think when you look at the role that chiefs play, it starts way back, And I think that sometimes some of these issues need to be addressed before it is too late. That start arresting this problem at the origin point of view, at the point of view where people are beginning to register as voters. If there is any suspicions that chiefs are being involved in these processes, bring up those issues. Let these chiefs be subjected to some form of accountability. And if they are found culpable of participating in this claims that come up, let them be fired if possible, you know, just to send a message that, you know, you cannot be part of mishandling or mismanaging or leading to elections that are not free, fair, and credible. So I think that some of these issues really need to be addressed way before we get to this particular point, because now, I mean, where do you even start now, you know? Will you start by firing chiefs right now? Will you start by, what can you do between now and the elections? So for me, that is just it. And it is not just the chiefs only. I mean, most of these election actors, there's a lot that they can do to influence an election. And so for me, these are claims, these are first of all claims that need to be substantiated, and secondly, issues that need to be addressed way before it is too late. And also sometimes it could also just be a narrative, you know? It could also just be a narrative that, look, you're already, it could also just be all politics, that you're already foreseeing a situation where you might not get the desired electoral outcome that you wish to see. And so to set up precedents or to lay ground for a contested election, you begin coming up with those claims so that when an election is done, if it doesn't go your way, you start saying, look, we already said, as he had mentioned, we had already brought up the claims that chiefs were involved, you know? So I think some of it could be political narrative. If there's no evidence produced, it could be political narrative. If there is evidence produced, let's, you know, processes to keep this, to hold the various actors accountable, begin.
Just